we've got I think most of our preschoolers are here today, which is very cool, and their families. And so we want to welcome you here. And we wanted to honor them. We want to honor the preschool staff and then all of our youth. We're putting a huge focus today on our young people. And so we're just so glad you're here. I want to take just a moment, though. I want to introduce the preschool staff, have them stand up. I won't make them say anything, but we have Amanda as their director and PJ. These guys, I want to say, give them a round of applause. Because they do an absolutely tremendous job here at the preschool. And I have the utmost respect for them. I was telling PJ this just a little bit ago. You know, I could stand probably before 5,000 or 10,000 adults and preach and speak and not get the least bit nervous. But on Wednesday mornings when I go in to the preschool and sing with them and talk with them, I'm as nervous as anything because they intimidate me. They do. I can walk into probably any prison in the state of Indiana and do jail ministry and it not bother me a bit. But I get intimidated with these little bitty kids. And but I love having that opportunity to go in and share with them. And they are precious, precious souls. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. I just want to say this. God really did a change from what for the last few weeks I had in my mind to how today was going to go. How this message was going to play out. The preschoolers are going to come up in a little bit, and you guys hang tight, and I'll have you come up here with me. But we even practiced a little bit Wednesday, and yesterday we were in here and ran through some of the worship songs to get ready for today. And on the way home, it was like God just started speaking to my heart and said, now, everything you've just been planning for the last 3 weeks, that's not happening. And I'm like driving in the rain, and I'm like, okay, God, if that's not happening, what is happening today? Because I really need to know. We're going to have a lot of people here tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of visitors. And I really, come on, God, I really need to know. I'm having this conversation driving home. And he started, it was like God was like downloading some things into my heart. And as Rick sent out a text last night, needs some help with a situation. And so I'm driving, I dropped the kids off at home, and I'm driving back towards Seymour. And again, I'm having this conversation with God. All right, God, I'm starting to feel something, sense something where you're wanting us to go tomorrow, but I still need some more clarity. And I got home last night, went to bed, and I thought I would be up all night worrying about it. Slept like a baby. Slept like a baby. Now, carrying a bunch of sandbags and stuff might have helped that situation last night with what we were doing, but I woke up at 5:30 this morning, and it was like, all right, God, I know where you're wanting us to go today. And then I got on Facebook this morning, and I read a Facebook post that my niece put on there, and I talked with her this morning, and I asked, can I share? And I'm going to do that a little later on once I bring the kids up. But I read a Facebook post she put out this morning, and it was a confirmation. Is exactly where we're supposed to be at today. In Matthew chapter 19, beginning in verse 13. Matthew 19, verse 13. And I want to say this. I know some of y'all parents are freaking out because your kids are crying and all that. Don't. I love it. It is music to my ears. All right? I get it. Been there, done that, but don't worry about that, okay? And I'm telling you, I would rather hear that any day. Any day. But in Matthew chapter 19, verse 13, then people brought little children to Jesus for him to place his hands on them and pray for them. But the disciples rebuked them. And Jesus said, let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. And when he had placed his hands on them, he went on from there. We had this really cool picture of Jesus, and he's been spending time ministering to people and healing people and praying for people and speaking into people's life. And at this moment, Jesus is kind of like a rock star. Everybody knows who He is. And if you know how it is, if you've ever been around somebody that's famous before, that this has great importance, a lot of times they don't want to be bothered. Or sometimes they'll have people that are with them to keep other people away from them, to give them their privacy. They'll have a security detail. It's just like, our president can't go anywhere without the Secret Service. Our pro athletes, they don't go anywhere without having a bodyguard with them. There's a protection there. And so Jesus, at this moment in His ministry and in His life, He is very popular. And sometimes I think the disciples thought they were kind of like His bodyguards. Because when people would come up to them, especially as these kids begin to come around Him, they step in front and they stop them. No, you're not coming near the Master. You're not coming to Jesus. But Jesus rebuked them. He said, no, let them come. This is what the kingdom of heaven is like, these little kids. Why is Jesus saying that? It's because we're all called to have a childlike faith. Nobody on this planet has a greater faith in God than most of our kids. I'm telling you. Because man, when I was a kid, it's kind of like my dad. I felt my dad could do anything. I had a faith in him, and just thought I thought he walked on water, and I thought he was it. And because I had that kind of faith in my dad, and I loved my dad so much like that, it was easy for me to have that kind of faith in God. I believed that He could do anything. But what happened as we grow up and we become adults? Somewhere along the way, that childlike faith, that childlike trust that we have in people starts to fade away. We have our first event that takes place in our life that takes us down a road that we never thought we would go. We maybe make a bad choice that leads to some severe consequences. We lose that first person in our life, and for the first time we're walking into a funeral home, and we're looking in a casket at somebody that we love very much, and all of a sudden now that faith, that childlike faith that we once had, is starting to dwindle a little bit. God, why is my mom laying in this casket? Why is my dad laying here? Why is my aunt and uncle? Why is my brother and sister here? I don't understand it. I don't get it. And we begin to question. We begin to question. But Jesus says, as little children, that's the type of faith we should have, that we just don't question. I knew my dad had everything under control, my earthly dad. There's things I may have not fully understood, but I knew He had it under control. And today, as we go through life and as we're called to have a childlike faith, we have to just understand that God's got things under control. No matter how bad it may be or what we're going through, that God is still there. We can still love Him and trust Him and have faith in Him, and He's going to lead us through. And our kids today sitting in this auditorium, I want you to hear me, guys. Our kids sitting in this auditorium today, there's going to be people standing in our Capitol buildings around our country, in this state, in Washington, D.C. There are going to be leaders, government leaders across our world. They're going to stand before their so-called intelligent people, the people who are the politicians who claim to know it all. They're going to stand before audiences, and they're going to say things like, our most precious resource is the oil that's in the ground. Our most precious resource is this or that. And they're going to say, we got to protect all the gas and oil that's in the ground at whatever cost. We got to protect, and our most precious resource is renewable energy. And I'm just throwing some stuff out here, okay? But they're going to make those claims. And they're going to say, without these things, it's hopeless. I want to tell you something this morning, church. The most precious resource we have on this planet is our kids, and they're sitting right next to you this morning. You hear me? Our future does not lie under the ground in reference to what allows our automobiles to go or heats our house. Our future doesn't depend on a lot of things that a lot of famous, wealthy people say that is our future, but it's our kids right now. And how we treat our kids and how we teach our kids is so very, very important. And we've got to honor them each and every day. You see, it's a little bit more noisy in here this morning than it typically is. And it's okay. Because it means life. It means joy. It means we've got a group of kids here that see things in our world differently than you and I do. They don't see all the negative that you and I do. And we need to learn a lesson from them this morning. We need to begin to look at the world a little bit more like they do than what we're looking at it right now. Because Jesus says we need to have a childlike faith. Because that is the kingdom of heaven. We have a responsibility to teach our kids no matter what they're going through. There's some in this room this morning, and you know who you are. You have been given a grave responsibility, and God has placed on your heart to take kids into your life that's had some brought up in some bad situations. Maybe you've adopted some kids out of some really tough situations. And all I can say is God bless you. I want to tell you a story this morning, and I'm a storyteller. This story takes place, and it goes back a long time ago. But it's about a young elementary teacher. She was a 5th grade teacher. She had only been teaching a couple years. So she was like mid-20s. Very young. Still learning to be a teacher. Still trying to understand it all. But the second year of teaching 5th grade, she had a group of kids that were really a great class for the most part. But she had one little boy named Billy in her class. And Billy was different. He was very withdrawn. He didn't participate a lot in class. When they would go out for recess, a lot of times instead of playing with the other kids, Billy would find himself over by himself playing in the dirt or on a slide or whatever. He just didn't interact a whole lot with the other students. When he'd come to school, he didn't always look all neat and proper, and things didn't always match. That sounded like me when I was a kid, but he was just different. And Miss Smith, as she's watching all this happen, and there would be times when they would go out for recess and they started choosing teams for kickball, Billy would always be the last one chosen. He didn't really seem to mind that much, but he was always last. So this year's they're going through the fall semester of this particular year, and Billy's not a very good student either. Matter of fact, he's flunking pretty much everything. Not doing well at all, and Miss Smith started to wonder, and she would try to talk to him, and he was just so withdrawn. She couldn't get any words out of him at all. And she began to wonder what's his story. And so she went back and she talked to the 4th grade teacher that had him the year before, and the 4th grade teacher, she'd been around for a lot of years, and she was just kind of, to be honest with you, she's just trying to make it to retirement. She said, "Oh, Billy's just one of those kids you're probably never going to get through to. He's never going to be probably worth anything. As a matter of fact, he'll probably end up being in jail. So I just kind of got him through my grade, so I didn't have to deal with him anymore." Boy, does that happen a lot, unfortunately. But Miss Smith, she didn't want to take that answer. she said there's got to be more to this. And so she went and pulled some files from Billy over the last couple of years of previous teachers. She wanted to find out more about what's going on. And she went all the way back to like second grade. And she's reading through his files, and in second grade he was doing pretty good with his grades and things. And she's reading it, but the teacher made a note in the second semester, the spring semester of Billy when he was in second grade. The teacher made a note that Billy had to miss a lot of school toward the end of the school year because his mom had gotten cancer. So she was in and out of the hospital a lot. So she goes through to the third grade year, and she's reading, and again sees that he's missed a lot of school because again his mom is battling cancer. Fourth grade year, she reads that in the fall semester of that year, Billy's mom died. And she noticed that fourth grade year, his grades really nosedive. I mean, he was just not doing well at all. And so now she has him. And she starts doing a little investigating with Billy now. She tries calling some phone numbers that was on his file. Tries to call his dad. She knows his mom's passed away. She tries calling his dad, and she never gets a hold of him. She finally gets an emergency contact number, which is his grandparents. And his grandma answers the phone, and Miss Smith begins to ask questions. You know, she's sorry about what happened, and wanted to know where Billy's dad's at. She'd been trying to reach him. She had some questions, and she said, "Honey, Billy's dad's gone. He just left. My husband and I, we're raising Billy right now. And we're in our 70s, and now we're raising a little kid again. And we're just trying the best we can to get through every day." And Miss Smith's heart is broken. And by this time, it's getting close to Christmas time in this year, school year. Her heart's broken. Well, they're getting ready for the class Christmas party, and you know how it is in elementary school. The kids would get gifts for the teacher, and they would come in for the Christmas party and all that. And so the kids, when they were coming in that morning, they were bringing their gifts, and they were sitting them on Miss Smith's desk. And most of them were nice gifts, neatly wrapped, and you could tell there was a lot of time. Parents spent a lot of time getting those gifts for their teacher, Miss Smith. That she noticed on that desk, she noticed there was a brown paper bag. It was kind of wadded up, and it was sitting there. And she knew immediately who brought that gift. It was little Billy. So it came time after lunch, and they're having their Christmas party, and the kids are all excited, and they're trying to they're excited for their teacher to get the gifts that they had bought for, and so she's like, "Oh no, this is going to be so embarrassing when I open Billy's gift." So she kind of slid it, and matter of fact, she was trying to protect him, but she took the gift and she kind of set it down by her desk, thinking that nobody would notice. And so she opens all the other gifts, and she's oohing and awing, and thanking the kids for what they'd gotten. And she got down, and there was no more gifts on the desk. And Billy said, "Well, Miss Smith, you haven't opened mine yet." And as she reached down and she picked up that brown paper bag, in her heart and in her gut, she wanted to throw up. That feeling of what's going to be in this bag. And she opens the bag up, and in this bag is a half-used bottle of perfume and an old rhinestone necklace that was missing some of the stones. And immediately the kids started making fun, laughing at what? You didn't even get her a full bottle of perfume, and that necklace is missing some stuff. That looks ugly. You know how kids are. Well, Miss Smith immediately, she took that necklace and she put it on, and she's doing it all over it. And she takes that bottle of perfume, it's half used, and she sprays a little bit on her and says, "Oh, this smells great, Billy. I love this scent. Thank you so much," and trying to make him feel better because he's almost in tears right now. So they go through the rest of the party, and school's over, and kids are starting to make their way out to get on the buses and things. And Billy's one of the last ones there to leave the room. And as he walks by, as though he's going to go out the door, he turns around and he comes back to Miss Smith and he hugs her. She said, "Billy, I really thank you for those gifts." And he said, "Well, Miss Smith, that perfume, that was my mom's perfume. She always loved the smell of that perfume. And that necklace, she wore that necklace everywhere. And the last couple of years, it's just kind of gotten broken. But I wanted you to have it." And he left. And Miss Smith went on that Christmas break, and she was a broken, young, 5th grade teacher. Her life was never the same. And she got on her knees before God, and she said, "I will go back, and I'll be the teacher, God, that you have called me to be. And I'm going to treat every kid the same, and I'm going to treat every kid as though they're the most important person on the planet, especially Billy." They go back for the start of their spring semester after the Christmas break. And she did. She poured so much energy into all the kids, but especially little Billy. She spent time tutoring him and giving him some extra motivation. And she made sure that whenever they were outside for recess, that he was one of the captains, that he wasn't getting picked last. And throughout that school year, she noticed that his grades began to come up a little bit. And she was able to send him on into middle school without just sending him to get rid of him. But he actually made well enough grades that he could be promoted on to the 6th grade. And at the last day of school, before they went on break, Billy came up to Miss Smith and he hugged her and he said, "Thank you so much for being my friend, for being my teacher. I'll never forget you." Years go on, and quite often Miss Smith wondered how Billy was doing as he got into middle school. And there was times she would call and try to talk to some of the teachers in the middle school to find out how he was doing. And they're like, he has his good times and bad times, but overall he's doing okay. He's doing okay. He gets into high school, and again, she's trying to keep tabs on him. And occasionally she tries to reach out to his grandparents to see how he's doing as well, and to try to talk to him on the phone to give him encouragement. And again, he's doing okay. But something happened around his junior year. And Miss Smith one day gets a letter in the mail. And in this letter, she opens it up, and it reads, "Dear Miss Smith, I just want you to know I'm starting my junior year, and I spent time at a church camp this summer, and I made Jesus Lord of my life. And I came out of that camp thinking and knowing that I had to do better. I had to do better. That God wanted to use me. And so I wanted you to know that I'm going into my senior year, and I'm going to give it everything that I've got." Signed, Billy Carter. So he gets into his senior year. Sure enough, his grades continue to just skyrocket. And he finishes as one of the top kids in the class when he graduated. He was one of those kids sitting on stage because of his GPA and made it into the National Honor Society. All those things. He's a complete turnaround his senior year of high school. During that graduation, as happens often, all the teachers from elementary on will be at the high school graduations. And after Billy received his diploma, he went down the stairs and he found Miss Smith sitting there with all the other teachers, and he went up to her and hugged her and again thanked her for the influence that she was in his life. The story doesn't end there. Billy went on to college. He went on to college, and while there, and again, Miss Smith wondered, how she was doing, but she felt so much better because of how his high school career ended, and so she wasn't, again, as worried as she had been, but she often wondered, and it was 4 years later, she got another letter in the mail. Dear Miss Smith, 1 week, I'm graduating college. Valedictorian in my class. And I want to thank you for being my 5th grade teacher. Signed, Billy Carter. Some time went on. Another 6 years or so goes by, and she gets another letter in the mail. Dear Miss Smith, it's me again. Just thought you'd want to know that here just shortly I'm going to be graduating from medical school. I'm a doctor now. Thank you so much for always believing in me. Signed, Billy Carter. It doesn't end there. 2 years later, she gets another letter in the mail. Dear Miss Smith, I just want you to know I'm getting married. I'm getting married in about 6 months, and my mom's gone. My dad has died too. My grandparents, they're now gone, and it's just me. He said, my side of the church isn't going to be very, very full of people. And I don't have anybody that's going to be sitting on the front row where my parents and my grandparents would be. Would you please do me the honor of being at my wedding and sitting where my parents and my grandparents would be? Signed, Billy Carter. And on that wedding day, Miss Smith, he's not so young anymore, walked down the aisle with an usher, and she sat exactly where his parents would be. For a young man whose life forever was changed because a young teacher understood the precious resource that she had in her class. Precious resource. All you preschoolers, I want to ask you guys to come up here and just join me on the stage this morning. You guys just sit down here. You can sit on that bench right there. Just have a seat on the bench. Good job. Here's some room down here. You can sit right here. How you guys today? I am so glad you're here with us this morning. A few weeks ago when I went in on Wednesday morning, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't know exactly what to talk to the kids about that morning, and I've been thinking about it, and God was just like, just let them know how much I love them. Just tell them how much I love them. And I want to tell you that again this morning. Hey, you guys look at me, okay? God loves you more than anything. And if there's one thing I want you, when we leave here today, to always remember how much He loves you. And He's always going to be there for you. We talked about what Jesus did for us the other day. When we were in here. Do you remember that? What are we getting ready to celebrate in a couple of weeks? What's going to happen in 2 weeks? You guys are being quiet today. What? Easter Bunny? Okay, we'll have fun with that too. What did Jesus do? Uh-oh. You're being silly. What did Jesus do for us? What did he do on the cross? He died. That's right. He died. Do you remember we talked about this? We talked about this Wednesday. Why did he die? What was the reason he had to die? Because we've done some bad stuff in our lives. We've sinned. And we needed to be forgiven of that. Remember? We talked about how when he was on the cross, what happened when he was on the cross? He started what? He started bleeding because they put nails in his hands and feet. And he had to bleed, and that blood is what cleanses us. That's what makes us, that's what takes away the sins. So what do we celebrate on Easter besides the Easter Bunny? What do we celebrate on Easter? What happened on Easter in Resurrection Day that we celebrate? Jesus was put in the tomb, right? He was taken off the cross. He was put in the tomb. What happened after 3 days of being in the tomb? He came, but you guys are real quiet today. He came out of the grave, didn't he? We sang about that this morning. He came back to life after 3 days.
My dog is with Jesus.
Your dog's with Jesus? Yep. You're too? Okay. God did all that because He loves you so much. He loves you so much. Listen to me. Sitting on this stage is not a headache. Hear me. Listen, I'll be the first one to be honest with you. Sometimes I think, Aiden, you are a big headache. Matter of fact, I thought that last night when he was going off. Or we get frustrated because we're taking 15 trips to town to baseball practice and dance and all these different things. And we're like, man, if I just didn't have to do this tonight. And we say they're a problem. And I get it. It gets frustrating. It makes for long days and long nights and long weeks. But let me tell you something. As I said earlier, this is our most precious commodity sitting on this stage this morning. And your responsibility as a parent and my responsibility as a parent and you grandparents that are sitting in this room today, we have a God-given responsibility to place our hope in these kids, not just for the future, but for the now. And we've got to begin to take that seriously. We've got to take that seriously. And I'm going to take this a step further this morning. But if you're 18 and under this morning, I want you to come up here and just fill in around the side this morning. If you're 18 and under, just come up here. All right, so that's pretty awesome. I don't know about y'all, but this is pretty awesome to see. This is not just the church of the future. This is the church of now. Hey, you preschoolers, you can stand up if you want to. You're getting overshadowed. You can stand up and you stand on the box if you want. If you promise you don't fall down. You guys want to stand up? You want to stand up? All right. I want to read something this morning. I appreciate you guys being quiet. You guys are awesome. All right? We're almost done. I promise. I got out of bed this morning and my niece, Tiffany Koppel. Some of y'all may or may not know her. She is the principal at Vienna Finley Elementary in Scottsburg. And Tiffany this morning reposted something that she posted back in 2021. She thought it was relevant. She didn't know necessarily why she was reposting this post this morning, but I truly believe she was reposting this post this morning. It was a confirmation for me that we needed to shift gears this morning where we were going and talking. But just bear with me. I just want to read this post because it like hit me between the eyes again, and I think it's going to hit all of us between the eyes this morning. But she says this: I grew up with cousins all up and down my road. Our house had the ball hoop. Our side yard made a great outfield for wiffle ball. We had an original Tendo that collected dust because we were too busy playing. My dad and my mom were youth leaders, so there were always cooler, older kids around. And we had epic games of hide and seek in the dark, and yes, even a few rounds of Ghosts in the Graveyard at our church. Church family was family. And even when I got super into basketball, AAU was just a 2-month shindig after the regular season let out. Sports weren't an identity. They were just something we did, like playing tag or riding bikes or a game of 21 with the boys on the home court. And honestly, I learned more there anyway. Summers were spent playing bike chicken, climbing trees, waging apple and persimmon wars, winning games of horse, playing and fighting with cousins, and going to church camp and ball camp and gardening with Papa, and cooking with my mama. Being a child of the 80s and 90s was pretty sweet. Adults were watching, but they weren't hovering. And I'm sure there were times my parents wanted to step in, but they didn't. They let me make my knocks, and as long as they weren't permanently damaging, I got some scars, and I appreciate them now, both physical and mental. And sometimes I feel sad that this generation is missing out on some of that freedom. Somewhere along the way, we traded straight knees for perfectly curated schedules. We started believing that kids had to do all things to become someone. That winning mattered more than playing. That being the best was more important than simply enjoying the game. But here's the thing. Life isn't always about winning, and that's okay. It's good to lose sometimes. It's good to get knocked down and learn how to get back up. It's good to wrestle with forgiveness when someone does you wrong. It's good to cheer for a friend's success even when it isn't your turn. It's good to learn empathy for those who treat us unkindly or don't have the same advantages in life. Because life will never be fair. People won't always be kind. And the world will never revolve around them. The best thing we can do for our kids isn't making sure they're the best at everything. It's teaching them to be strong, kind, and resilient when life throws them curveballs. This isn't aimed at any one thing, just a general lament for what's been lost. And I'll be the first to admit I've played a part in this fast-paced, overly scheduled, performance-driven world. Maybe it's not too late to slow down. Maybe it's not too late to let kids just be kids again. And this morning I want to speak to you guys just for a moment, okay? Just be kids. Even you guys are getting ready to go off to college, be a kid as long as you can. And even when you're an adult, still be a kid in your mind. Have that faith in God that you had when you were younger, that you just didn't question. You just knew He was in control. Continue to be a kid in your mind. For all you little ones, God's got so much in store for you. Again, He loves you. We love you. And you're going to go on to do great and mighty things. Great and mighty things. So I'm going to ask you guys to step up here. Any of our youth workers, sponsors here, I want you to come up here with this morning. We're going to pray over these kids this morning. Any of our youth workers want to come up? Rachel, come on up. Angie, come up. Anybody else that teaches a Sunday school or whatever? So just join me as we pray this morning for these kids that are up here. God, we thank you so much for every young person standing in the front of this building, for those that are still in the back and crying. God, you know who they are. You know their hearts. And Lord, you've got such big plans for their life. And God, right now, I pray a special blessing over each and every one of them. That, God, their lives are long and fruitful, and they're going to be incredible men and women of God. Lord, it doesn't mean life's not going to get hard, because they are. And they're going to learn some valuable lessons through the way. But God, they should always know that you're there, you're in control, and you're leading and guiding them. And God, this morning I pray for those that are standing up here that are adults, that are teachers, that are leaders. God, whether they're teaching a Sunday school class, God, whether they're teaching a preschool, God, whether their teachers are sitting in the audience today that are public school teachers, God, you know each one, you know what they do, Lord. And I pray, Father, that you continue to give them the heart of Christ as they teach and lead and guide this valuable resource before us, God. We love you and we praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.